Warning: this gallery contains graphic images that some viewers may find disturbing.
This public service announcement was created to inform you about the unsanitary processing of your meat and the terrible working conditions your men are in.
Upton Sinclair brought to our attention that the meatpacking industry's working conditions and environments are highly unsanitary. They are putting our life and yours at risk. Mr. Sinclair is a muckraker who is a reformist-minded journalist who wrote largely for popular magazines and continued a tradition of investigative journalism, who vowed to show you these conditions in his book, The Jungle, and brought this to Congress's interest, and because of this, the FDA was created.
The book The Jungle was written in 1906 by Upton Sinclair. Upton Sinclair wrote the novel to portray the lives of immigrants in Chicago. This was concerned with the exposure of health violations and unsanitary practices in America and in the meatpacking industry. Cut up by the 2,000 Revolution a Minute flyers and mixed with half a ton of other meat, no odor that was ever in a ham could make any difference. There was never the least attention paid to what was cut up for sausage. There would come all the way back from Europe old sausage that had been rejected and that was moldy and white. It would be doused with borax and glycerin and dumped into the hoopers and made over again for home consumption. There would be meat that had tumbled out onto the floor in the dirt and sawdust, where the workers had tramped and spit uncounted billions of consumption germs. There would be meat stored in great piles in rooms, and the water from leaky roofs would drip over it, and stored in great piles. Thousands of rats would race about on it. It was too dark in these storage places to see well, but a man could run his hand over these piles of meat and sweep off handfuls of the dried dung of rats. These rats were nuisances, and the packers would put poisoned bread out for them. They would die, and then rats, bread, and meat would go into the hoopers together. This is no fairy story and no joke. The meat would be shoveled into carts, and the men who did the shoveling would not trouble to lift out a rat even if he saw one.
Theodore Roosevelt was nauseated after reading Sinclair's book The Jungle and invited Sinclair to his house, where he promised that the specific evils he had pointed out shall be proved, and if Roosevelt has the power, those evils shall be eradicated. Roosevelt then decided to make a claim that America's resources were endless and made conservation a primary concern. Then a friend of Roosevelt's, a naturalist and a writer, persuaded Roosevelt to set aside 148 million acres of forest reserves and set aside 1.5 million acres of power sites and another 80 million acres of land. This would then cause experts to look for mineral and water resources. In addition, Roosevelt also helped to create federal water projects that would transfer some dry wilderness areas to make agriculture possible. Roosevelt had a great impact with the Meat Inspection Act, dealing that he was still concerned after reading Sinclair's book and wanted to respond to the public's claim for action. He had appointed a commission of experts to investigate the meatpacking industry. This then led to the Meat Inspection Act, which dictated strict cleanliness requirements for meat packers and created the program of federal meat inspection.
Along with the Meat Inspection Act, Congress passed the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, preventing the manufacture, sale, or transportation of adulterated or misbranded foods, medicines, drugs, and liquors. Basically, companies had to label accurate information of the ingredients used in their products.
The FDA recalled Nestle Toll House refrigerated cookie dough because of E. coli risk. 65 reported illnesses in teens throughout 29 states. 25 people have been hospitalized, 7 with kidney failure. The FDA called Nestle to recall the products, and Nestle voluntarily recalled them. The FDA was created in 1906, and as you can still see today, they are still making an impact.
So overall, make sure to be cautious when purchasing packaged meat.